Hello, class. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day so far. This is Miss Phillips, and today is Thursday, September 10th, 2020. Today, you will need the following materials: a pencil, a sheet of paper, your writing journal, and a partner, but that part is optional. If you don't have a partner, that's okay. If you don't have these materials, go ahead and pause the lesson now, go collect them, then come back and push play. Welcome back. Today's learning objective. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to identify transition words and recognize their importance, as well as use the transition words appropriately within your own writing. So you have been learning about writing your own personal narrative and the importance of the structure of a narrative. Remember, while we read today, that the importance of a narrative is, and the purpose of the narrative is, to tell you a story. You can describe an experience, an event, or a sequence of events. In a narrative, we tell who, what, when, where, and how. And you can always list the sequence of events first, next, then, last, or beginning, middle, and end. Today we will be talking about transitions. When we read a story, there are often times we are able to follow the story along pretty well. There are not normally any strange pauses when the author wants to relay the events that happened in a specific order or keep the flow of the story going. This is because the author is using transitions or transitional words. Transitions are words or phrases that connect one idea to another when writing. These transitions can occur at different areas throughout the writing. Transitions can occur within a paragraph or between paragraphs. Transitions will help your story follow along the correct path for narrative structure, as well as tie all the events of your story together. Authors use transition words at the start of sentences or paragraphs to help keep moving their story forward. Transition words can help show sequence. In a story, there is always a beginning. In the beginning, you can use words to show transition, like first, to begin, initially, at first, first of all. In a narrative, there is always a middle. In the middle portion of your narrative, you can use words for transition like next, secondly, later, in addition to, after that. When learning about the narrative structure, you learn that there is always an ending or a conclusion. To transition into a conclusion or an ending, you can use words such as finally, after all, at the end, and in conclusion. Transition words can help in many ways. They help to compare. Whenever you use words like similarly, in the same way as, likewise, as well as, those transition words are used to compare two different things, and sometimes multiple things. Transition words or phrases can help to contrast. Using words such as different from, a difference is, unlike, or in contrast to. You can help to say how things are different from each other using those words, and it transitions your thoughts and ideas during your narratives. Transitions can also be used to give examples. When giving examples, you can use transition words or phrases such as for example, specifically, in fact, and to illustrate. These will show the reader that you're transitioning into an example that you want to give. Transition words and phrases can also be used to show time or sequence of events. You can use words like meanwhile, recently, following, or afterwards, and these can show your time in relation to events happening in the story. I want you to take a look at this paragraph and follow along as I read. I rode my bike. I walked the hiking trail. I played with my dog. My dog chased and ran. I caught my dog. We ate lunch. We went home. I took a nap. Now that you have heard me read the paragraph, go ahead and pause the video and read it to yourself. Okay, great. So now that you have read the paragraph, I want you to think about a few things. Was this paragraph easy to understand? Did it seem choppy? What I mean by choppy is, did the sentences kind of stop and start, but not really flow together very easily? Could you tell the order of events in the story? If I changed I rode my bike to the end of the story behind I took a nap, it would look as if you rode your bike after the character took the nap. However, this story you cannot tell from this story what the order of events were. I'm assuming because the story is written the way it is written, that the character walked the hiking trail after he rode his bike. This paragraph was definitely an easy read, but it was not very descriptive. I had a hard time picturing the narrative elements because there was not much describing information. Plus, it seemed very choppy to me, and I could not really tell when the character did what. It seems like a list of activities with no particular order rather than a flowing story. Now let's read that story again, but with a few more details. I rode my red bike. I walked the winding hiking trail. I played happily with my spotted dog. My silly dog chased a squirrel and ran away. I caught my fast dog. We ate a delicious lunch. We went home in our big green truck. I took a long nap because I was so tired. Now go ahead and read the detailed paragraph on your own. You can pause the video and then come back. While you're reading this paragraph, I want you to think about how it sounds and flows in comparison to the previous paragraph you read. Go ahead and pause the video now to do this. Welcome back. Thank you for reading. What did you think? I personally enjoyed the second paragraph much more. It had more vivid detail that allowed me to really picture what was happening in the text. I did, however, feel that something was missing. Although the sentences were very descriptive, they still seemed choppy, as if they kind of all either stopped and went or ran together without any real timing. I could not tell what happened first, what happened next, or the sequence of events. The only reason I may think that the events happened just as described are because the order that the author wrote the sentences. Now let's go over a few more transitional words that can be used in writing. As we said earlier, narrative writing always has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It can also have a first, next, then, and last. Next and then are the middle part of your story. You always need a beginning part of the story. This includes your exposition or background information, but also needs to include what happens first. You need transitions words or phrases such as one sunny day, to start with, for one thing, it started when, in the beginning, or in the afternoon. Or any of the other words listed here can be used as well for the beginning. Next, you always need a middle. As we talked previously, the middle of your story includes the rising action and eventually the climax. But it needs transition words or phrases to indicate the flow and continuation of the story. These words or phrases can include next, then, later, after, meanwhile, second, afterwards, also, third. Then, of course, you always need an end when writing. This is your resolution and conclusion. For this ending, resolution, or conclusion, you will always need transitional words or phrases, such as lastly, as you can see, at last, finally, in the end, and many of the other phrases and words pictured on the anchor charts here. You can take some time to look over the charts and come back and unpause the video when you're finished. Now that we have learned some transitions, I'm going to use some transitions in the paragraph we read earlier in the lesson. Pay close attention to the transition words and how they impact the meaning and connections within the story. First, I rode my red bike. Then I walked the winding trail. A little while later, I played happily with my spotted dog. Suddenly, my silly dog chased a squirrel and ran away. After a long while, I caught my fast dog. Afterwards, we ate a delicious lunch. As soon as we finished lunch, we went home in our big green truck. Finally, I took a long nap because I was so tired after my long day. Go ahead and read this paragraph again to yourself. How did this paragraph feel to you when you read it? Think about the transition words. Pause the video now and read the paragraph. Again, how did this paragraph feel when you read it? Did it flow together and connect nicely? Were you able to tell what sequence the events took place and better understand the narrative structure? I know that I personally sure was able to understand the order in which the events of the story took place. This is because of the transitional words that were added. Did you notice the transition words? You can pause the video and write down transition words that you believe were used or discuss them with a partner. When you are finished, come back here and push play. Now that you're back, I will underline the transition words one by one for you to see where they were at in the story. First, this says that first I rode my bike. That tells us, the reader, that that was the first activity that the character did. Then I walked the winding hiking trail. That tells us, the reader, that the character walked the winding hiking trail after they rode their red bike. A little while later, I played happily with my spotted dog. Suddenly, my silly dog chased a squirrel and ran away. After a long while, I caught my fast dog. Using after right here tells us, the reader, that the character caught their fast dog after the dog chased the squirrel and ran away. Afterwards, we ate a delicious lunch. Using the afterwards right here tells the reader that the character ate a delicious lunch after they caught their fast dog. As soon as we finished lunch, we went home in our big green truck. Finally, I took a long nap because I was so tired after my long day. This tells us, the reader, that the character, in conclusion, at the end, finally took a long nap because they were so tired after their long day. Do you see how these transitions help the story flow correctly? Now that you've learned some transition words and the importance for these words, I would like for you to create your own story. Please use your writing journal or a blank sheet of paper and write a paragraph, including a beginning, middle, and an end. Pay close attention to the structure of your story and include the transition words to depict when the events in your story took place. You can use the anchor charts shown in the previous slides to help. Remember, your story can be about something that truly happened to you with a beginning, middle, and an end, or something that you have made up. But make sure that you use transition words appropriately to depict a beginning, middle, and end for the narrative structure, as we have learned here today. Have a great day.